Catherine and Ellen, you've been dumped from the island. Please say your goodbyes and leave the villa.
Good guy, mate. Good guy.
I know.
Literally doesn't
I
make
know.
sense.
Me and Scott aren't compatible.
I know.
If you've been on my channel for a while, you know that I did raise a concern and I did sort of sound an alarm. And I hate to say I was right. When Mehdi left, I said that the producers are going to look for somebody else to be the bad guy, and that's how they're going to split the couple. And I remember saying Scott and Catherine were too good to be true, and here we are. I know some of it is due to Catherine's, behavior, but I saw this coming. And I said Ty and Ella were unpredictable because they were hot and cold all the time, so the producers couldn't manipulate whatever was happening with them. But I saw this coming with Catherine and Scott. I didn't realize it would play out the way it played out, but I saw this coming. Anyway, I digress. Hey there, thanks for stopping by. It's your girl Valerie. Welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, don't forget to subscribe, leave a like, a comment, and turn on the notification bell for when I upload new videos. In this episode, I'll be reviewing Love Island Season 10, Episode 38. So the islanders are getting ready for the night, and Scott is having a conversation with Montel. Montel is asking him, so how do you feel about what Abby said at the Shady game? And he went, in my opinion, what I'm going to do is I'm going to have a conversation with Abby. If she's uncomfortable or if she doesn't want to try and sort of pursue this connection, then I'm happy to take a step back. I think because for him, he doesn't want to do anything that sort of makes anyone uncomfortable, and he doesn't want to force a connection. I think given what happened with Catherine, he's not going to put himself out there unless he knows that the person feels the same way. Otherwise, he would rather just keep to himself, which I give him a lot of credit for. And the islanders then go for their drink. And Katie is shady. So Katie made a toast and then sort of let it slip that Zach and Molly are closed off. And everybody was taken aback because nobody else knew outside of Zach and Molly. Well, not Zach and Molly per se, because Zach didn't even know they were closed off. It's only Molly who knew that they were closed off. Anyway, Zach is sort of taken aback and he's upset and he storms off. Molly sort of tells him, I think he starts to talk. This is where Molly has an advantage on everybody else, because he starts to talk and make a comment. And Molly says to him, okay, no, keep quiet, just keep quiet. Let's go to the fire pit. Because I think she knew that whatever he said could affect their chances of staying on the show. So this is why she was trying to pacify him. And I think he knows that she's got an upper hand to everybody else. So that's why he kept quiet. They went to the fire pit, we were having a conversation, and he was saying, I personally don't understand what closed off is. Which makes me think, did Molly just say they were closed off because everybody else is becoming closed off and she wants to make sure that nobody else comes after Zach and she secures her place? That didn't make sense to me. Anyway, they've agreed that they're not going to turn their heads or look at anybody else, but we'll see with the latest bombshells coming in. Katie is sitting down with her friend Leah and Uzi, and she's sort of saying, I don't get it. I don't get why they're upset, because it was just an honest cheer. I was happy for them. I was celebrating them. And it's like, Katie, were you really? Nah, I don't think so. You were just being messy. Because I think she brought it up to the girls, and the girls sort of didn't give her the reaction she wanted, so she decided to do it in front of everyone when they're having their glasses of wine. And you could tell the boys were not happy. The boys were not happy. Well, Ty is the boss of the villa, so he wasn't happy that he wasn't brought into this secret. I personally think that the moment Catherine leaves the villa and Scott stops being public enemy number one, Katie is going to be put in those shoes, because of the way that Tyreek was sitting down having a conversation with Ella, and Ella says, oh, Katie loves the drama, I'm not going to give her the attention that she needs. And it's like, you threw shade at them. She threw shade at you. So why is it now become something that you're now at war? You don't need to have this grudge with Katie. Katie needs to move on. You need to move on. You're with your guy. She's with her guy. That's it. Unless you are feeling some type of way about Katie because she's now with Uzi, there's no need for you, Ella, to bother about whatever Katie's doing or whatever she's saying. That's none of your business. Keep it moving. Keep your focus on your coupling. Try and grow your connection before you leave the villa, because you know Ty is going to have a lot of options once you leave the villa, and you want to make sure that you have a solid foundation. So Scott pulls Abby for a chat because obviously she said she was worried that he wasn't interested in her during class, and suddenly he is. And I have to give him a lot of credit, because he put the ball in her court and said, I am open to getting to know you because you're the only person that I think there is a chance I might find a connection with in the villa at the moment. But at the same time, I want you to be comfortable. If you are happy to get to know me, then I'm happy to continue. If you're not, that's fine. We can move on. And so Abby then expresses that, he's her type, the way he looks, the way, everything about him. That's the sort of guy she'd normally date. They seem to have a great connection. They seem to really like one another because they're actually laughing and joking. And she's sitting very close to him. And I'm like, oh my gosh, she's attracted to him. I think she's worried about the backlash if she suddenly switches from Mitch, or whether Scott will eventually move on to somebody else. I think that's her fear. And so I don't know. We'll see how that plays out. Molly then goes across to speak to Katie, and she's sort of saying, were you being malicious, or were you just being nice when you made the toast about Zach and me being closed off? And it's like, how naive are you? Obviously, she was being shady. She was being shady. If she wasn't being shady, she should have come to you and asked you, do you mind if I say this during my toast? But she didn't. She decided to say it in front of everyone to not only embarrass you, but also to let the cat out of the bag. That way everybody knows where you stand. Because I think Katie has sort of sussed it out and is aware that Molly went home and Molly has the upper hand, so she will do anything to bring Molly down, which I'm happy for. The guys then have a conversation with Zachariah and asked Zachariah, how come you didn't tell us you're closed off? And he went, well, the thing is, Molly was marking her territory. That's why she said we were closed off. We hadn't really spoken about it. But I think with the way things are going, I'm happy to not pursue anyone else. And it's like, Zachariah, you have not enjoyed the full Love Island experience. You are just going along with this because you think your ticket to staying in the villa and possibly winning is Molly. You haven't really done anything outside of coupling up with Katie and then going back to Molly. Molly had her eye on you when you came in. She set her sights and got you from Catherine. Then Katie took you from her. She went home. She came back and she came straight for you. So you haven't enjoyed the villa experience. I wouldn't close myself off just because somebody said, let's get closed off. I don't think that makes sense. Mitch on his part then pulls Molly aside and sort of wants to learn from his mistakes. He's trying not to be as intense with Abby, and it's like, I thought you said you were not threatened by Scott. I thought you said you had a greater connection. Even Scott acknowledges that you and Abby have a greater connection. So why are you asking for advice from other people if your connection is that strong and if you're not intimidated by Scott? Why not just continue as you are and see how you go? I don't get that. So Mitch then pulls Abby for a chat and moans that, why didn't you come to me? I really wanted to talk to you. You only spoke to me for 10 minutes and then you've been with Scott all night. And this is where he starts to scare the girls off because he becomes creepy, he becomes possessive, he becomes territorial, and the girls don't like that. And I know Molly gave him advice, but I don't think he listened to the advice. And I don't see why he's that offended. If he says he's not intimidated by Scott, if he says he knows that what he has with Abby is stronger and there's no way Scott is going to pull her, the guys were right to say to Scott, because Scott said, yeah, it's a new connection, so I don't want to really put anything into it. And Zach, Ty, and Sammy were telling him that Mitch is intimidated. Mitch is scared. And he's trying to not show, but he is scared that Abby might leave him for you. And yeah, it will be sad if Abby leaves him for Scott, but I think Scott is a better guy for her. I think Mitch over time can be very possessive and he can be scary. So I don't think he's the right guy for her. They all go to get ready for the night, and Abby, you can tell she's very upset. I have to give it to Whitney because she comforted her and she told her, don't worry, everybody has a bad day in here, so it's not just you. If you feel like crying, cry. Don't, think people are going to look at you some type of way. And she gave her a hug, which is sweet. All the other girls just looked and walked past, and it's like, oh, okay, it is what it is. And the guys like winding Mitch up. I think because of the way Mitch was moving at the start, this is why they like winding him up, letting him know that he and Scott are sort of going back to battle for Abby, and one of them is going to come out victorious. So I don't know. We'll see how that plays out. All the islanders go to sleep. So in the morning, the islanders wake up and there is no debriefing. Producers, if you're listening, thank you, because it's pointless for us to have the same conversation all the time. We don't need a debriefing every day. Once a week is fine. So in the morning, you suddenly have this conversation between Catherine and Scott, and it's like, how did we go from her saying nobody wanted you to suddenly her being okay to speak to Scott about his possible coupling with Abby? That doesn't make sense to me. We're missing a lot of information in between. How did they get to sit down? I think somebody orchestrated this. I think the producers must have told them that you need to sit down. I think they knew Catherine was getting a lot of backlash, and I think they knew Catherine was going home, and they decided to sort of just give us some positive edits. That way, the viewers might sort of calm down and not be as aggressive as they seem to be online at the moment. Because she even said, "Oh, I'm happy that we're in a good place to talk, and it's not as it was before." And it's like, where was the apology? How did we get here? It was just the two of them sitting there, so that didn't make sense to me. Whitney then receives a message to say that she's going on a date with Locken. I'm happy for them. I don't know. I don't know about that connection, but let me leave it alone, because every time I seem to say something, something comes up. But I have a feeling that at some point before the finale, something is going to happen, because there is no good couple on Love Island. There's no couple that ever has smooth sailing. Even Zach and Molly, we're here today. We're talking about them being closed off when the other person doesn't know that they're closed off. So it's just a matter of time for Locken and Whitney, and then suddenly you have Elam having a conversation with Catherine. I saw this coming. I saw this coming because I remember in my review yesterday I was saying, I wonder what Locken thinks watching Catherine behave the way she's behaving towards Scott, or I wonder what any bombshell that's coming into the villa thinks watching Catherine behave the way she behaves. Because if Locken goes home, Catherine is stuck because of the way she's behaved and the way she's moved, because people are going to want to sort of avoid her at all costs. So Locken explains that, he is still open. If a bombshell comes in, he's open to getting to know the bombshell. And this bruised Catherine's ego. She tried to hide it, but I could tell she was hurt. She was hurt because of the way she made it seem like Locken was all for her and this was it. She was ready to build her empire with him. And for him to suddenly tell her that actually our foundation is not yet strong enough for us to start building is something she didn't expect. It's something she didn't expect, because Locken then goes for advice from Jess, and Jess is the last person you want advice from. I love Jess, but she hasn't been sort of, yeah, one or two occasions she's been constructive. Most of the time she's always given advice that's anti someone. So I don't know why he went to Jess and Semi. They're not, the ideal couple in the villa for him to be seeking advice from. Okay, I take it back. So Jess is able to tell Elam that she doesn't need to sort of think in advance about if a bombshell comes in. He needs to live in the here and now. And when a bombshell comes in and he likes the bombshell, then he can have that conversation with Catherine, which makes sense. And Elam on his part also makes sense in the sense that he doesn't want Catherine to sort of shut off everything else and just say it's Elam, when there is a possibility that somebody could turn his head. And it would be very naive of Catherine to think that Elam's head might not turn, because she's his first connection in Casa that she's brought over to the villa. There is a possibility that he might find a stronger connection with somebody else. So for her to be upset about that doesn't make sense. Catherine then speaks to Sammy and Jess. I don't know who made them the advocates of the villa, but hey, it is what it is. And Sammy was sort of saying to her, the problem is Locum sits around and he hears us guys talk about our relationships and the problems that we're having, especially when someone is exploring a new connection. And I think this is why he decided to sort of preempt anything coming in and sort of give you a heads up. That way you're not hurt when it does eventually happen. And so Catherine was upset. In her confessional, she was crying. This is something she didn't expect. I think bringing Ellen back, she thought that she was going to be in this coupling and she would ride it till the finale. And so the idea that he might play her, the way she's played people in the villa, is shocking. So she played Andre and went to Zach. And when Zach turned his head and said he was moving on to Molly, she then went back to Andre and played him. And as soon as he left, she went on to Scott, played Scott until Casa came. And when Casa came, she pursued other connections and she got Elam. So the idea that somebody else is going to do the same thing to her, I think is what was hurting her feelings and why she was becoming very teary. And then you have Abby and Scott chatting. Abby and Scott have a great connection. I like their connection. I don't know. We'll see how that plays out. And Scott was right to say, if you're sort of exploring things with me, there's no need for you to go and ask Mitch for advice. There are other people in the villa that you can ask advice, because Mitchell is going to give you advice that benefits him. He's never going to say anything positive about Scott because he knows that Scott is his competition, which makes sense. I don't know why Abby didn't get that. Locan is on his date with Whitney. I love their date. I thought it was cute. But for me, unpopular opinion, I prefer Whitney with Maddie. I think Maddie was better for her. I know a lot of people don't think that. I think they were a cute couple. I think even if they leave, they need to start a YouTube channel where they'll be shading people, reviewing things, and that could make them a lot of money because I think they have sort of the same sort of sense of humor. They understand each other. Yes, they do butt heads, but they still are able to find a way to resolve whatever's going on around them. And the islanders then get ready for the night. I liked how excited Whitney and Logan were talking about their dates. As you know, you've already know my opinion in regards to them as a couple. Although Whitney said she could see Logan as her boyfriend, I know she did say during their date that she had a type that she dated before, but it seems her type is she doesn't have a type because the guys she's dated in the villa are completely opposite from who she'd normally date. And Elam had to make it known to the guys that he had told Catherine that he's still open and is open to exploring. I think he didn't want the understanding that Zachariah and Molly had, and Ty was, oh, you should have taken it to the terrace, and it's like, oh my god, Ty, you need to keep quiet. And then Mitch pulled Scott for a chat, and it's like, Mitch, be careful. You need to put some respect on Scott's name, otherwise you're going to pack your bags and go home. Because he said to him, oh, I don't appreciate you bringing my name into your conversations with Abby. And it's like, Scott didn't say it in a bad way. Scott just said, I would rather you get opinions from other people outside of Mitch, because Mitch might not have your best interest at heart. Mitch might do what is best for him, which is right. Mitch's track record is not the best in the villa. And the audacity for me for him to pull Scott and tell Scott off to say, why are you having conversations and putting my name in your conversations? And it's like, you recoupled with Molly, told Zachariah that you're recoupled with Molly because of Zachariah, only for you to run to Molly and tell Molly, I didn't recouple with you because of Zachariah, I recoupled with you for my own benefit. So please sit down and keep quiet somewhere. We then have Catherine and Elam on the terrace, and it's like, Ty is running this villa. He told Elam to take her to the terrace, and this is where he took her. So he then is able to make amends, is able to comfort her and pacify her, and Catherine is happy with that. And for me, it's like, no, it's already an orange flag, a red flag, whatever you want to call it. The fact that he's brought it up tells me that he's not confident with his coupling. The fact that he's brought it up tells me that he already has the idea to leave Catherine. And Catherine every time is the one who's always going in for a kiss, and he appears to just indulge her. I think she likes him more than he likes her. I said this before yesterday, and I hate to be right, but I think Catherine likes Elam more than Elam actually likes her. You then have Leah and Montel on the terrace again kissing, and it's like, why? Are you trying to tell us that they're going home then? So they are going to say goodbye to each other on the terrace. Elam, Montel and Leah for me don't make sense. They don't make sense to me as a couple. I think they're two people that are just comfortable with one another and know that they can keep each other in the villa. Do I see them lasting after once they leave the villa? No, I do not. You have the soap opera montage of all the couples all lovey-dovey, loving on each other, kissing each other, and being in a happy place, and it's the calm before the storm. The storm is coming. The storm is coming. So then Ella receives a text message to say, that the public have been voting for their least compatible couple, and Scott thinks I'm in a friendship couple, so it's me. Just says it's me, and I think Molly sort of gave him a sign to say no, keep quiet, keep quiet, and then it was revealed. I think the producers were messy in the sense that they got Catherine's closest friends to announce it. So Ella was the one who read the initial message, and then Whitney is the one who told her she was going home. The producers tried to give Catherine a story arc in this episode, in my opinion. The fact that she was able to make amends with Scott, the fact that, the person she was in a coupling with was already thinking of leaving her. So I think they tried to get her onto the public's good graces, but I don't think it worked. And when it was announced that Catherine and Ellen were going home, Ellen wasn't really shocked. Ellen wasn't really shocked. Unless he's got a very good poker face, he had a straight face. He eventually sort of said, wow. But I think he knew he was in danger the minute he saw the way Catherine moved once they got into the villa. Because Catherine always came across as a sweet and very quiet young lady, but then the moment she fell out with Scott, because Scott called her out and said, everyone was saying I'm playing games, but you're the one who's playing games because you've brought another guy into the villa when I thought our connection was stable and I didn't do anything thinking that you would come back single, I would be single and would get back together. And so Ellen doesn't seem to have been shocked. And I know some people online are saying, oh, it's because of her color and whatever. I do not think so. I said this in my review yesterday. People went hard and Dami and Luca when they were going after Tasha, saying Tasha was playing and had tables been turned, had Scott behaved the way that Catherine behaved when she came back from Casa, everybody would have been up in arms. People would have reported to Ofcom, people would have boycotted the show, people would be tweeting about it, but very few people said anything about it. And I don't know why the girls didn't pull her up on it, unless the producers edited out her apology, because we suddenly saw her have a decent conversation with Scott. I am not surprised that she's gone home. I think she needs to go on the character rehabilitation tours during her interviews. She needs to say all the nice things. She needs to be apologetic. I think she should not blame Scott for what she did. I think she should take ownership of what she did and apologize. And hopefully at some point the public will forgive her. But the way she treated Scott is the reason why she's going home. I don't think a lot of people had an issue with her recoupling with Ellen. If that's who makes her happy, that's fine. It's the way she came back about it. Because if you look at Ella came back with Uzi, but still sort of spoke to Ty in a sort of compassionate and empathetic way and understood how he felt, apologized and moved on. No one was saying she should dump Ellen for Scott once she got back to the villa. I think I said this before, had she sat down with Scott and said, Scott, I'm sorry that we're in two different places in our coupling. I went to Casa without the intention of getting to know someone, and I met, fortunately or unfortunately, I met Ellen. We developed a connection because we have a lot of things in common, and I'm sincerely sorry that you feel hurt, and I'm sincerely sorry that there was no way I could have given you a heads up as to how I felt. I think the conversations and the incident that happened before Casa is what made me open to the idea of getting to know someone, and I felt my connection with Ella more stronger than my connection with you. I think that would have made sense to the viewers. But because she refused to apologize, refused to take responsibility for her actions, this is the reason why she's gone home. It's not because of her color. It's not because she's a girl. It's just because of the way she maneuvered. She refused to apologize. Even Sammy, he's one of the worst in the villa, but he still apologized to Jess. We don't know how sincere that was, but he still apologized, which is better than what Catherine did. The words "I am sorry" should have just come out of her mouth, and I think the viewers would have forgiven her. She didn't say I'm sorry. Instead, she doubled down, and it seemed none of her friends were able to pull her up on it and sort of tell her, you need to apologize to Scott, or none of her friends were able to sort of apologize on her behalf to Scott. I think this is the reason why she's gone home. So she packs her bags and she leaves. And even on her way out, you can see she's still bitter about Scott, because when she sat down with Scott, she said, oh, I still care about you. And it's like, if you speak to someone you care about that way, how do you speak to someone you hate? How badly do you speak to someone you hate? Anyway, on her way out, she sort of gives him a side hug, and you can tell she's not really feeling it. And I think she made a sort of a snide remark and said, oh, at least I left with a better connection because Scott wasn't there. And it's like, Catherine, you're on your way out. Leave the door quietly. You don't need any more tension. You've already alienated a lot of people. Just make your way out. The islanders then receive another text message, and it sort of asks them to go to the fire pit, and then it's revealed that Uzi and Katie, Leah and Mountel, Jess and Sammy are in the bottom three couples. And they're all shocked because Scott doesn't understand why he still sat there, but the reason why Scott is sat there is because he was able to take responsibility for his actions. He was able to apologize to Catherine when he felt he had offended her. And he sat back and allowed Catherine to continue with her connection. He didn't try to continue to sort of put pressure on her and say, oh, but you and I had... No, he gave her the space and the chance to do what she wanted to do with Ellen. And this is why he's still in the villa, in my opinion. And hopefully the bombshell that comes in likes him and he can create a connection with her. If not, hopefully another bombshell comes in and he will like them. But anyway, it was an amazing episode. I really enjoyed it. But hey, thanks guys for watching. Please don't forget to like, share, comment and subscribe. Bye everyone.